Stop for a moment. Because what I am about to share with you is not motivation, and it is not advice meant to make you feel good for a short time. This is something that quietly changes how you see yourself and how you see the people around you. For centuries, the most powerful individuals in history have understood this without ever explaining it. Kings relied on it, leaders used it, and the most respected people you have ever encountered mastered it silently. Most people never figure it out. They keep chasing people who do not value them, giving energy where it is never returned, and repeating the same emotional pain again and again. If you do not understand what I'm about to explain, that cycle will continue for the rest of your life. So stay here, because by the end of this, something will click in your mind, and once it does, you will not be able to go back. When someone chooses to ignore you, you think about the last time someone ignored you intentionally. Not because they were busy, not because they forgot, but because they chose not to respond. Maybe it was someone you cared about, someone whose opinion mattered to you more than it should have. The moment they went silent, your thoughts became louder. You replayed conversations, questioned your words, checked your phone repeatedly, and waited for a response that never came. The most painful part was not the silence itself. It was the feeling of being mentally trapped. One person did nothing, yet your entire emotional state revolved around them. And that leads to an important question. Why does one person's silence have so much control over your mind? Why? Silence controls the human mind. Human beings are not built to tolerate uncertainty. Your brain is designed to search for answers, complete patterns, and fill gaps. When someone goes silent, your mind does not stay calm. It reacts. It creates stories, imagines scenarios, and fills the empty space with assumptions, usually negative ones. That is where the power of silence comes from. Silence itself is neutral. It is what your mind does with it that creates emotional chaos. The person who ignores you does not need to say a word. Your own thoughts do the work for them. This is one of the most uncomfortable truths in human psychology, and most people live under its influence without realizing it. Unconsciously give away your power. Every day, without awareness, you give away your power. When you reply instantly to someone who responds hours or days later, you silently communicate that their time matters more than yours. When you explain yourself to someone who has already decided how they see you, you waste emotional energy. When you chase someone who is clearly pulling away, you reinforce the belief that you will always be available regardless of how you are treated. No one forces you into these patterns. You participate in them. And the more you do, the smaller, more drained, and more invisible you begin to feel. What happens when you stop? The moment you stop overgiving, the first thing you feel is discomfort. Your mind reacts immediately. It tells you that you are being rude, that people will leave, that you are damaging relationships. But that feeling is not guilt, it is withdrawal. Your brain has been conditioned to seek validation, responses, and reassurance. When you remove that supply, discomfort is unavoidable. But if you stay steady and do not react, something begins to shift. People who once ignored you start noticing. People who took you for granted begin reaching out. This is not coincidence. It is psychology. Scarcity creates value. Unpredictability creates attention. Cold silence, VSS, smart silence. Not all silence is the same. Cold silence is complete disengagement. No replies, no explanations, no emotional access. This form of silence is meant for people who repeatedly disrespect you, drain you, or make you feel small. They do not deserve closure or access to your energy. Walking away from them is not cruelty, it is self-respect. Smart silence is different. It is controlled and intentional. Slower replies, less emotional availability, reduced effort. This is for people you cannot completely remove from your life, such as co-workers, family members, or distant connections. The rule is simple. Give slightly less energy than you receive. Never match them. Never exceed them. Let the balance shift naturally. Why? This feels so difficult. Most people never do this because fear controls them. Fear of abandonment. Fear of being forgotten. Fear that silence means loneliness. But the truth is uncomfortable. The people you are most afraid to pull away from are often the ones benefiting the most from your constant availability. The anxiety you feel when you imagine going quiet is not a warning sign. It is confirmation that you have been over-investing. On the other side of that fear is a version of you that no longer chases, explains, or begs to be seen. What real confidence actually looks like. Most people misunderstand confidence. They believe confidence is loud, expressive, and dominant. They think it is about being seen, being admired, and being validated. But real confidence is quiet. It is the ability to sit in silence without feeling the need to explain yourself. It is not needing a reply to feel valuable. It is walking away from situations that drain you without guilt or justification. Every time you resist chasing someone who's pulling away, you strengthen this inner confidence. Every time you choose calm over reaction, you gain emotional control. And emotional control is one of the most powerful traits a person can develop. Why silence makes people react. When you stop reacting, something shifts on the other side. People are used to patterns. They expect you to be available, responsive, and predictable. When that pattern breaks, they notice the absence of your energy, not because you demanded attention, but because you removed access. Silence creates space, and space forces reflection. People begin to wonder what changed and where they stand. Some move closer, others drift away. Both reactions are useful. Silence does not confuse people, it reveals them. The people who stay and the people who go. The right people do not feel threatened by your silence. They respect it, they communicate, they adjust their effort. The wrong people respond with guilt-tripping, frustration, or disappearance. This distinction matters. If someone only values you when you are constantly available and over-giving, they were never attached to you. They were attached to your energy. When you pull that energy back, the truth becomes visible. Silence does not push the right people away. It filters out the wrong ones. Why pulling back feels uncomfortable. The anxiety you feel when you stop chasing is not intuition. It is conditioning. You trained your nervous system to associate effort with connection, response with worth, and availability with love. When you change that pattern, your body reacts. It feels unfamiliar and unsafe. But unfamiliar does not mean wrong. Growth often feels uncomfortable at first. If you stay steady instead of reacting, your nervous system recalibrates. Over time, you begin to feel grounded without constant reassurance. The quiet power of self-respect. Self-respect is not something you announce. It is something people feel in your presence. It shows in how much you explain, how quickly you respond, and how much access you allow. When you stop over-explaining, over-giving, and over-responding, your value rises naturally. Not because you are playing games, but because you are no longer leaking energy. Silence becomes a boundary, and boundaries are not meant to control others. They exist to protect your peace. When silence stops being a strategy, there comes a point where silence is no longer calculated. It becomes natural. You stop timing replies. You stop checking your phone for validation. Whether someone reaches out or not no longer defines your mood or your self-worth. You feel stable. You feel centered. This is the moment you stop reacting to life and start choosing how you engage with it. Silence loses its emotional charge because you no longer depend on it for meaning. People never reach. Freedom is not isolation. It is not cutting everyone off. Real freedom is knowing that you will be okay regardless of how others behave. It is understanding that you do not need to chase connection, force conversation, or earn attention. The people meant for you will meet you with effort, not silence. And if someone goes quiet and never returns, that silence becomes information, not pain. You stop taking it personally and start taking it seriously. What this all comes down. Your silence is not weakness. The next time someone disrespects you or makes you question your worth, do not react emotionally. Do not explain yourself. Do not chase clarity. Choose silence, not as punishment and not as manipulation, but as protection. Because real power does not beg or argue. It stays calm, steady, and unbothered. And that quiet strength puts you back in control of your time, your energy, and your life. If this message resonated with you, hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel for deep psychological content like this every week. and comment below honestly. Have you ever gone silent and watched the dynamic change? Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. I will see you in the next one.